Welcome to this week's podcast. I hope you've all had a fantastic week. This week we are going to be talking to the amazing Amanda Harris-Lea of Foxy Pheasant. She's going to be talking to us all about her journey in business and how she's built a brand we all know and love. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi, Jo.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Amanda, very quickly. We're going to go through all your story, but what is your sort of history with our working dog?
So I had my first working dog when I was 7. I actually wanted a gun, but in 1986, I've aged myself there as well. In the 1980s, little girls didn't have guns. It wasn't the thing to do. So my father caved in and I had a spaniel. I had a working cocker and her name was Tess. She was named after the dog on Emmerdale Farm, actually. And that was my first dog. And I didn't get my second dog until I was 18. And I've had spaniels ever since. I've had all, I used to take on dogs to train. Spaniels are my thing.
So a history of gun dogs and the countryside, has it always been part of your blood?
Absolutely. Born and brought up on a farm in East Shropshire, beating. But I think probably about 9 or 10. Didn't go to school on a Friday because we always shot on a Friday. That's not good, is it? and yeah, my father was a farmer. Countryside has always been really, really important part of what I do. So
let's start out with, how was your business even born? Where does it come from?
2015, I lost my father to cancer in the September, and then my daughter was born in the 1st of November. Also during that period, I'd had quite a significant back injury, and so I'd been on, quite a journey. And by the time Pippa was born, I was done really. I was pretty empty. And I hadn't had a chance to go out shooting because I didn't feel like it. And in the end, some close friends sort of scooped me up and said, come on, we need to go. So I went out shooting. Well, I don't shoot, actually. I've got my gun dogs. So I went out, and I don't know whether it was the painkillers or all the sort of stress that I'd been under. I don't know. But I just sort of started to see all these colours around me. I looked at the game cart and I was like, wow, look at all those colours in the birds, and look at the colours in the trees, and they're all sort of quite similar. For whatever reason, I just started to see all these colours, and originally thought maybe I could turn that into fabric. I needed to fund it.
Yeah.
So I started off doing like vintage shooting stuff and country interiors, and I got a little antique type unit. And that funded the first lot of fabric. And I was actually on the way to the printers to discuss doing an exhibition in London, actually. I went to Olympia to an interiors show. And I was driving through Altrincham in Cheshire, where there's lots of ladies who jog. And we were driving past them, and they'd all got their sort of little sausage dogs and these amazing leggings. And I just thought, I could put my fabric on leggings. And I got to the printers and we had our meeting, and I went, I've had this most really random idea. And they said, oh, that's a fabulous idea. At which point I just talked myself out of it, because I thought, that's going to cost me a fortune. I just can't. I'm just not going to do that. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, my printer sent me 4 meters of fabric with a little post-it note on it that said, I dare you. And I wish I'd kept that post-it note. A couple of pairs of leggings, and that's it, really.
Isn't it amazing they could see something in you and in your idea that you've had this idea, like loads of people, don't they? They have an idea, and then within seconds they start talking themselves out of it.
Exactly.
And you'd sort of done that in front of the printer, and they just literally went, actually, let's just keep that idea going in her head.
Yeah.
So do you come from like a textile background?
No, I'm a land agent by trade. I studied at Harper Adams, and before I moved to Wales, I managed country estates, sporting estates, farms for third parties. So that's my background. I like, I was a fan of interiors and colours and stuff like that, but never, I had no formal training in it.
So from land agent, where you'd been surrounded by these colours all the time, because it's always been there, to this whole like going through some of the hardest points in your life, some hardest tragically and some hardest just, even having a child and having a new baby is hard in itself. All those things, going through pain. Was it a case that you just thought, like, enough, I just need something that brings me alive? Or was it just a case of seeing those colours and thought, I could use this for interiors? What brought it all to be from one really different background to this new background?
I don't know, really. I mean, people talk about, sort of light bulb moments or like epiphany moments. That moment I started to see those colours and started to see the world in colours, friends of mine seeing that I was pretty, I was down in the dumps. I really was down in the dumps. And it was like, I live in the middle of nowhere. I just lost my father, who was my absolute world. Granted, I've got a beautiful baby in front of me. I should have been over the moon. It was that need for a focus. And as we all do when we have we forget who we are.
Yeah.
And I think especially grief creates a lot of energy. And I'm a great believer that energy just needs to go somewhere. So putting all of those things together, I think I channeled the energy that was coming from the grief, that little light bulb moment that came from somewhere. And I just did stuff. It didn't matter what I did. I was just doing stuff that was getting me to where I am now. I had no plan.
So when you said you were doing stuff in like Olympia and interior, so what was your first plan for this fabric? Was it going to be like cushions and curtains?
Yeah, so that's what we did originally. I made sort of upholstery fabric, so for curtains and soft furnishings.
And then suddenly seeing these little legs and dogs running around, just thought actually leggings would be awesome. So you made those first couple of pairs, and then like everybody, I'm sure, like you go through stages, I think, of fright, of talking yourself out of it. I always say that people have breakdowns before they have breakthroughs.
Yes.
Literally everything falls apart, and then suddenly something comes, and you go, right, that's the way forward.
Yeah.
So when you had this whole idea for leggings, obviously there isn't a business behind the leggings yet. So what took these leggings into a business?
I suppose the fact that we made the initial batch and people bought them and people went, oh my God, they're amazing. And even though I'd made some, and my wonderful friend Lindsay had said, go on, I'll wear a pair. And she's got a fabulous bottom. And she wore them, and the photo that she sent me of her wearing them, I was like, wow. And I think a lot of people also must have gone, and so just sort of people having faith in it took it to the next level. Because I think even then, even though I'd made X amount of pairs, it's that whole imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
How can I end up selling leggings? I know nothing about fashion. I'm a land agent. Give me a single farm payment form and I'll do that in my sleep. So yeah, I suppose just people having faith in that initial batch, and then that fed more ideas. I mean, even now I sit back and I'm like, it's a bit strange, really. and I think maybe that imposter syndrome is what is healthy. It keeps us on our toes.
It's definitely, I think, there in a lot of people. Like yourself, people say to me, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I sort of run this dog training online membership where people come to train their dogs, but I don't dog train. And they look more confused than I do, because it's like you've just sort of created something that you never planned on. It was never part of your career form. I know what I'll do when I grow up. I'll run the ladies working dog group. It's sort of like one thing leads to another thing to another, and you just suddenly find yourself in this flow, and that flow just feels right, doesn't it? You don't know why, but it feels right.
Absolutely. And I think on a personal note, you have to sort of have been to some quite dark places to know what's feeling good and what's not, if that's not too airy-fairy, you know. And I think you pass a certain stage in your life where your bullshit filters have just gone, and you're just going in the direction that feels good. I'm very grateful for having that opportunity, really.
So where did your sort of like, obviously you've got these leggings, you've got this lady's bottom who's looking insane. Now, when I see your stuff, I see loads and loads of people in our group, outside of our group, wearing your beautiful leggings. And I see your Instagram, and like, I can see a business, a flourishing business. It's not just a business in seconds, is it? What did you have to do?
Goodness me, I don't know. It's, from the inception of the business, it was quite a tough time, and I used the Foxy Pheasant, which was then interiors and maybe a few more antiques than anything else. It was a focus and a channel. From where we are today, I don't know how to answer that, Jo. I really don't. I've got 2 small children. I've got a farm. I've got so much going on. I've no idea how I got here, to be quite honest, and that's maybe being a little bit too honest. As long as I'm gaining, as long as I'm progressing every day, that's all that matters.
I completely understand it, because like I just said, I don't know how I got here. And if people said to me, like, take a different business and do it again, I'd be like, I don't know if I can, because I don't know what I did. But I think it is like what you said, isn't it? Like, people think that, creating or building a business or building a brand means you've just got this like perfect plan. And it's not that. It is that one step, that one opportunity, that one post, that one conversation, or one thing you clicked on that led to another idea. Like, sometimes I literally sit in front of the computer and I end up going down like a rabbit's warren. I'm like clicking stuff and I'm like, why am I here? What has this got to do with anything? And then I'll see something on a page and, like, again, not like a woo-woo thing, but almost like some sort of intervention that says this would be a good idea. You're going. I suppose, and I'm sure you'd agree with me, you just keep a very open mind to what could help, and that open mind seems to pick up on things that maybe before you would have missed.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah, it like literally baffles me, and I see like how you do things, and I see like the step by step, and like the new lines, the new ideas, the new creativity. That isn't all written down on a plan, is it? It doesn't say in January I'm going to have a new creative idea.
No, it's completely organic. But what I do realise is that, we have got some amazing customers and some incredibly loyal customers. I want to keep them happy. I want to keep them interested. And to do that, I've got to keep coming up with the ideas. We've also, there are people that have started doing a similar sort of thing to us, which is the greatest compliment anybody could have. I try and think of new things and keep things coming out to keep the ideas coming. I've got the collaboration with the Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust here in Wales. I worked very closely with them in the past doing agri-environment schemes, and also with my passion being shooting. It's all entwined, really. So that's a really exciting project. I'm really pleased to be supporting the team there. They are doing a great job. I'm really excited about that. And again, it's an organic part of the process.
I always think that it's very hard to reinvent the wheel. And like, for example, yourself, leggings. There's many, many millions of companies doing leggings. It's what you bring to leggings that makes it your brand. And like, I always have this idea of like blinkers on to what the rest of the world is doing. What do our customers need? What would they find quirky or fun or enjoy or something like that? You are what makes Foxy Pheasant you, isn't it?
Yes, and what I decided was that I would make stuff that I liked and that fitted me. So here I am, 40-something, 2 kids down the line. I'd love to have a super slim figure. I haven't. I found an amazing fabric, and I've designed the leggings so that they fit in the right places. They the fabric is amazing at smoothing out, I'm going to say this, but the fabric is amazing at smoothing out lumps and bumps. I've made the waistbands so that they're I can only describe it as a big knicker fit, those big knickers. It's comfy. When you're out shooting, they're not going to move. You can tuck your vest in, they're going to be practical. So I designed a product that I would wear, that I needed, and that looks great. The tweeds look great out when you're out shooting. The active wear ones, there's a bit of countryside that you can wear when you go into the gym, or you can wear in the summer when you're working the dogs. I designed them for me, thinking there's other people out there like me that we live in the countryside. We also have to go and pick the kids up from school. We also have to go to Marks and Spencer's and buy some food. If that pair of leggings will do all of those jobs.
And that's what's like, when I'm listening to your story, it's fascinating, because our stories, even though our products are very, very different, they align in the same thing. Like the LWDG came from something that solved one of my problems. Yeah. I needed to find other women who could help me. And like what you're saying now, your product solved your problems. You knew that other people would have those problems. Like, I'm very similar, 42, 3 C-sections later, probably eat way too much chocolate in the evening because I can't drink wine because of my epilepsy. And I want clothing. I don't look for clothing like I did when I was 20. I look for clothing now that, like you said, if I put a pair of trainers on, it can cope. And if I put a pair of wellies on, it can cope. And if it has to go through the entire day with me. And make me feel comfortable, but still look a little bit classy. And I think your products do that exceptionally well. There's something about them that says these are something a little bit different, don't they?
I hope so. That is the intention. And I've tried to stay true to what I set out to be, which was, practical and stylish and fun. And I have had thoughts where I thought, I could do this or I could do that. But, vanilla doesn't pay. Anything in life, you need to do it like you mean it. And that's my goal, really, is to just keep creating things that give that exact message.
And your product is massively needed. I've spent some time in the States, and they do like hunting gear really, really well for women. They've thought about it. There's a lot of stuff. I don't find that in the UK. I've got to be honest. And because I'm like, I didn't even get 5 foot. Everything is like really, really long. You can't cut the bottoms on. Like if you buy well-known brands of shooting trousers, they've only got something in the bottom, like a zip or something like that. So you can't cut them off. And you just end up feeling like frustrated that you can't find the gear that makes you look good, but also does the job. And like I spend my time beating. So I want stuff that can breathe, and like you said, an active way that will actually allow me to keep up with the dog. My job isn't to stand round and stay warm. It's almost the opposite problem, isn't it? You're flat out behind your 4-legged friend and you're covered in mud, and you need something that can just take that beating. So like you say, it's about like doing something different. Do you I always get what I call like shiny magpie syndrome. Like I see other ideas and think, oh, that would be good. And I do have to rein myself in sometimes. So do you find yourself thinking, oh, I could make jumpers and I could make jackets, or is it like they'll come in time, or are you like, no, I'm just staying true to like the leggings and the accessories?
Yeah, completely. And that's that whole need for something to occupy me and somewhere to channel, I wouldn't say my stress, but my need to find something for me, quite often sees me going off on a tangent, and I'll get halfway through and I'll go, what a ridiculous idea. It's occupied me for a while. You don't want to do that. Let's concentrate on the job in hand. Or my other half will very kindly come along and tell me, what do you do? So don't tell him that.
But I think it's the mind of an entrepreneur, isn't it? Because we are creative, we came up with the first idea, which got us to where we are now.
Absolutely.
Which then knocks that off. We still want to. I constantly want to create. Like I'm sure the ladies now would say, if you bring out another T-shirt, we're going to kill you, because I just like that. But that for me, the same as somebody has a glass of wine. I will sit and do a logo because it does for me the same thing. It just is my release of something. And is that how you find it? Is that like
Absolutely
that to do it?
Completely agree with you. It's me time. It's a purpose. You know, I really enjoy it. Yeah, it's my time.
So you've got your leggings. What other products do you make that some of our listeners might not be aware of?
So we make the leggings.
Yeah.
So we do neck tube snooty things.
Yeah.
Which are great. I'm obviously going to say that, aren't I? We do scrunchies. We do a sort of knotted headband, which is on the sort of old-fashioned preformed plastic, you know, the Alice bands. But I've covered that in our fabric, and it's got a quite nice knot. That's really nice. We've got a few cheeky dog bandanas because I know that there's quite a few gun dogs who are style icons.
Is there plans to make more things for dogs?
I don't know, really. I mean, I have been asked that before, but I mean, going down the route of sort of dog coats and things like that, that's a whole different avenue. That would be a whole different manufacturing process and different materials. All my seamstresses, so for our accessories, they're all made by ladies locally. So I'll turn up to their house with a big pile of fabric cut out, and they sew them all, and then I collect them all up.
So this truly is a Welsh product then?
Oh, absolutely. All the accessories are made in Pembrokeshire. It's my choice to do it this way because, you know, I could have had these made in Eastern Europe en masse, but that is not what we're about. I wanted to really sort of stick a flag in the ground and show people that a rural enterprise really can run from the middle of nowhere, and that there is a skill set there that maybe isn't utilised. Just needs a little bit of imagination as to the logistics, really, finding the people that can do the sewing, working with them, getting a sort of regular routine going. Distribution, I use our local post office. I send everything by special delivery, which is a little bit expensive, but it goes through my local post office. And that's another business that's benefiting from our work. Again, through choice, I could use a different courier, but I don't want to. My leggings are made in mid-Wales at a tailor's there. And I'm really pleased that they've actually taken on a student now. So they are an apparel maker, so they make a lot of samples for a lot of big names, and they took on making our stuff, and they've taken on a student now who's working with them. So I'm really pleased that that's happened as well. It's always been my choice to keep things rural and sustainable.
So the leggings, like I've seen you like peacock ones and your pheasant ones and all that. How do you get like the colours that you're seeing in nature onto your leggings?
I just see what's right and what's not right. And one thing I set out to do was, in my mind, I was like, right, if I'm going to do this, if you ever see my stand at a show, every single item will look good next to each other. So that colour palette is really important to me. I've just done some new camouflage ones, and I've used the colours that were in some of the pheasant feathers to create a camouflage pattern.
I suppose that's like when you look then like on your Instagram feed, and like people talk all the time about like aesthetics and like that whole feel. It just all looks very high end, very smart. Like, and is that like when you sit down? Because I know, like for me, when I start out, you don't really think of like Superly, this going to be a global brand. It's a bit of a shock for me. It was a bit shocking to be a global brand. Yeah. But the internet has changed how everything works, isn't it? So now you're a global brand. Do you find that quite bizarre that you're like taking sort of orders from places all over the world?
Completely. Again, that imposter syndrome. I laugh when I go to the post office. I'm like, look, because I mean, obviously, we all know each other. I go, look, this one's going to so and so. God, and they're just like, what are you putting? Because they think, they see the global brand, but they're like, wow, but to me, I still go, oh, what I really want. My office is getting, rather cramped now. What I really want is one of those maps. I want to put a pin in. That's really sad. I really want one. And I'd put a pin in for all those random places across the world.
It is absolutely like, I completely understand the map thing. I've really thought about it as well, because we went the other day to Botswana and something to Hong Kong, and I thought the imposter syndrome again is just, I was like, literally as I was posting, I was thinking, what on God's earth am I doing? And a little bit like, I've got a very similar story of losing my dad, and it was like, I was really close to him as you were, and it's one of the hardest things I've ever been through in my life. And now I watch this and I think, I wonder what he would think, whether he would like laugh, like, I don't know what you're doing either, or whether he would see it as like, I always knew you could do it type of thing. And that always goes around and plays around in my head. But I almost think, I don't know whether you'd agree with this, through the worst tragedy can come almost a silver lining. Like, I look now and I think that fueled me, like you were just saying, it fueled me to do something, to be something. Did you feel like that? It was like an energy that only that tragedy could have put into you.
Absolutely. It's that energy, and it's the choice that we have, what we do with that energy. And it's not just a choice, it's whether we've got that support network around us to be able to embrace the opportunities and, and just crack on with stuff. I mean, yeah, the energy for me is a big thing. And, like I said, my first outlet for Foxy Pheasant was antiques and sort of interiors. And I can remember sanding furniture and painting furniture and, tears getting in the way. But as I was sanding and I was, creating stuff and actually getting some job satisfaction out of stuff, all that time I was sanding or I was painting, I was thinking and I was digesting and I was processing. And I think that was the most valuable thing I could have ever done. I mean, I was doing it while, my youngest, kids sleep. She'd be fast asleep in the pushchair and I'd be like, right, I'm going to open a tin of paint and I'm going to paint something while she's asleep. But yeah, it got me through each day at a time. Sometimes, each minute at a time. I survived, and that's,
You talk about support there, and you've mentioned your other half. Is he really supportive? Like, because my other half is like, literally, I say to some people, you see me, but you don't see the rock behind me, which is my husband. Is that the case for you, having that person who? Because for me, sometimes I literally, that imposter syndrome overwhelms me to the point where I'm like, I really shouldn't be doing this. This is not who I am or what I am. Somebody's going to find out that I have no clue what I'm doing 5 years in, and he sort of puts me back tidy. Do you have that?
Absolutely. We are like chalk and cheese. My partner is from an IT background. He loves a good spreadsheet. I'm a farmer. Everything I do is organic. I'm creative. On paper, you just wouldn't put us together, but actually he's very calm. He is very supportive. And you know yourself, those days when the snot and the tears take over and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. A cup of coffee will get placed on your desk and you'll be like told that you're doing a good job. And sometimes it's just that, it might be just all you need, or someone to just listen to you rant.
And let it out, because sometimes you don't want to show the world that. And like, it's really funny, 2 weeks ago on the podcast, we were talking with Becca Devston about imposter syndrome and about how that goes on with she's a dog trainer, how that affects her training her own dog. And like, it doesn't matter what you're doing, your background, your hobbies, this imposter syndrome, it can really be crippling without a support system to pick you back up and dust you off and send you on your way again, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And my kids are great at that. The kids are great levelers, aren't they? I was out shooting last weekend, and after we'd finished shooting, loads of ladies were interested in what I was doing. And my 10-year-old was like, oh, well, my mum does this, and she'd open the boot of the car and she'd go, yeah, my mum, she sells these and she makes these. was like, I didn't realise that you'd actually been taking any notice at all. But then I was like completely overwhelmed. But there was my little, my little munchkin, just saleswoman of the year. It was amazing, and I thought, well, you know what, that was really nice to see that she was a fan.
Yeah.
And she'd taken, they do take notice. And they love it. They'll be rummaging through the scrunchies when they come in, because I get, I have them in a big batch, and I sort of finish them off myself. And I'm like, oh, can I have that one to go to school with? And well, that's a big compliment, isn't it? If your kids think you're doing a good job, I think that's about as good as it gets, isn't it?
And I think our children, but especially our daughters, we're showing them a different way of life, aren't we? We're showing them, like, I don't class myself as old. My mum and dad run a business. You come from a farming background. You've seen people work for their livelihood. But I think we set a different bar now, because our children, they look at the internet as they be in their futures. They look at digital technology as being their futures, or almost a lot of them do. We show our daughters that they can have it all. They can have a global business. They can be creative. They can have children. They can have, the partner. They can have it all. Where life has always said, maybe you can't have it all, we're actually saying, yes, you can.
Yeah, absolutely, you can. And you have to have the balance. There are days, if the children are poorly, then Foxy Pheasant doesn't happen. First job, my most important job is to take care of my children. The job fits around them. Yeah, I'm very grateful that I've got that flexibility. They do see me still sat at the laptop when they go to bed, and sometimes I'm sat at the laptop when they get up in the morning.
There is that balance, it's give and take, isn't it? The one part they get is freedom, in mum hasn't got to go to a job as such. She's there, there to put them to school, there when they come home, there for everything else in between, can play taxi, can do whatever. But then on the other side, there are times when you are like, look, you can see me in this house, but I'm not here. I have got to get this piece of work done. And I think that teaches them something as well, because I think for any business owner who started their business at home or works from home, we teach our children they have to have self-discipline, and this is something that our ladies with their dogs need. You need self-discipline. You've got to have that get up and go and get it done, even when you really don't want to.
That support network, again, is really important. I'm really lucky to have a group of friends around me, and we're all self-employed in various different guises, and being able to pick the phone up and send a message saying, oh my God, the internet's broken, or, oh, what do you think about this? Is absolutely priceless. And I'm not, I don't just all happen to be, all girlfriends. Trying to show my daughters that, having good friends around you is so important in life. And, I've got a friend of mine who's a florist. When she's busy, I'll go and play at being a florist for the day and love every minute of it, because that's what it's about, isn't it? It's having a network behind you where you can pick people's brains and get a bit of reassurance, because we all have to make decisions and have it, when the buck stops with you, sometimes you're like, I haven't slept for 2 or 3 days. I've got to make a big decision here. Oh, better ring so-and-so. But then, you need to return that favour as well. So I'm really lucky to have that kind of support.
And I think as well, so like this podcast, the LWDG, everything, I look at it sometimes and I think it was born out of a passion, but it's almost built a community of far more than just me, but of small groups within that community where they support each other. Some of my best friends are now in a group where I didn't see anything like that 3 years ago. And I think the internet has changed how we make friendships and where we find our strength from, isn't it? You know, like until tonight, we hadn't seen each other face to face. We chatted, and you know, like when you came onto here, we like doing this on a Zoom. It's like, oh, it's nice to sort of meet you properly. But you can get strength even if you can't see those people around you in your local community. You can find them, can't you? They're there for you.
Absolutely. And you know, social media is a fabulous. It has its bad points. It really does. But you know, I've made some great friends on social media, and quite a few of them I've never met. But you know, once all this COVID stuff is out of the road, I am going on the road, and I'm going to visit every single one, and meet all these wonderful people that are part of my virtual support network as well. You know, it's great.
Well, definitely pop past Aberdeen because I'm not that far from you, and
No.
on. Thank you very much for this podcast. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm sure the ladies, they're just going to love listening to how, you know, your journey, your story, your inspiration, and loads of stuff what you said is absolutely relative to your dog training journey as well. I find them very, very similar stories. Like the strengths, the friendships, the feeling like you can't do it, the needing to plan and to grind and to be creative. They're all in every one of my dog training sessions as much as they are when I'm sitting in the office. For the ladies who want to find you online, where do they find you, Amanda?
Well, we've got our website, which is just foxypheasant.co.uk. We're also on Instagram, Foxy Pheasant Limited on Instagram. We have a Facebook page, again, Foxy Pheasant. And you'll be able to find us there.
Well, I'm sure all the ladies will leave this podcast. If they don't know you already, which I'm sure many of them do, and they probably loved hearing your story. But if you haven't heard of Amanda before, go check out her stuff. You will be absolutely in love. You will be scrolling for hours. Thank you very much for doing this for us. It's been an absolute delight. And hopefully we'll get to meet up in person real soon.
That's lovely. Jo, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been lovely chatting with you.
See you soon. Bye now.
Thank you.